You know what I've noticed, guys? And guys, I've never noticed this. Only within myself, I've seen this. Now, as you guys know, my eldest son Isaiah, he's 18 now. He's turning 19 in a month's time. And Ethan is 14, and Zeki is for all intents and purposes is 8, right? And so I've always kind of been the black sheep of the family, right? Even if it's in my mind, right? But I've always been a bit of an outsider when it comes to my family, and it's because I stand on business. The way I am on social media is about the same how I am in my own life. I don't really take cock. I don't tolerate people's shit, but I also try not to give people shit myself, right? But one thing that I told myself that I would love to do, and this is something that was lacking, I would say in the later stages of our lives, because we used to have a relatively close family. When I say close, I mean we would go to the cousins on weekends. We would have this routine. We would drive around on Christmas Day, and we would go visit certain aunties and uncles, and you know, we were close with certain people. And unfortunately, over time, and this happened to a lot of us, right? Over time, things happen between our parents and their siblings, our parents and their aunties and uncles, with like our extended family, right? Something would happen to them, and we as the children would bear the brunt or the impact of that, because now we don't go to that cousin anymore. Now we don't go to that uncle and auntie anymore, and eventually the whole thing eroded. The whole unit eroded, because now my ma en my uncle praat nie meer nie. So nou sien ek ook nie meer my neefies nie, and we drifted apart. And now we don't see each other at all. We basically strangers. We know each other. We have the memories of when we were younger, and that's about it, right? So we cool with each other, but you won't really see each other hanging out, or our kids hanging out and stuff like that. When you realize this is at funerals and family get-togethers, and you find out like how estranged you really are. But as time goes on and you become older, you see how your grandparents treat your parents. You see how your uncles and aunties treat your parents. You know, you see how their brothers and sisters, you know, your uncle and aunties treat your parents. And you start to understand why they chose to back off. Also, the older you get, the more you realize, okay, so that's what happened. Okay, so that is why that one and that one don't talk. Oh, that's why that cousin was living by that auntie, because as eintlik daai uncle se kind gewees. You know, you kind of find out how things fit in. And it starts making sense, right? So something that I really tried, and this is one of, in my opinion, a generational curse that needed to be broken, although it's extremely difficult to break such curses when you are dealing with people that are not ethical, you know, is the one where you want your kids to be close to their cousins, close to their family. So what I try to do is I try to take my kids to family as often as I can. It's not always possible, because you realize that sometimes other people's children is a bit dysfunctional. You realize that other people's children is maybe not as well behaved as your children. And I'll say it again, I make a very big point of trying to make my children as well behaved as possible, because well behaved children fit in anywhere. Well behaved children don't make a visit uncomfortable because they're constantly nagging and pulling on you and asking you when are we leaving and saying they're hungry and pulling other people's stuff off the tables and breaking other children's toys when they're there and scratching on the TV, tapping on the... my children don't do that. They've never done that. I've never tolerated it. And that made it possible for me to take my children anywhere. And I realize that everybody don't have that level of control. So that adds another element. But that's not the point of this video. The point of the video is Isaiah is starting to grow up to the point where he's understanding more and more. He's starting to realize what family did to me. He's starting to click. And unfortunately, at the age of 18, you cannot force him to interact or love or be friendly with anybody to the point where you can do it to Zaki or Ethan, where you can say, no, go say hello, give them a huggy. And you know how family members would seem like the best people in the world when they come to visit, and you don't realize the underlying current that is happening in the back end. But when you're older, you realize, but you did this to my daddy 2 years ago. I heard what you said about my daddy, and now you're coming here and you're acting as if nothing happened. And Isaiah asked me, I mean, we had a visitor the other day, and Isaiah asked me, did he apologize for what he did and said the last time? And I said, no, my son, he didn't. But for the sake of peace, I'm not going to insist on the apology. And it was an opportunity for me to give him a lesson on sometimes the apology that you so deserve, sometimes you will never get. And my son of 18 years old tells me, how many times do you want this person to hurt you? How many free passes are you going to give this person to get the opportunity to hurt you? And my 18-year-old son is telling me to be careful. And I looked at him and I told him, well noted, my boy. Well noted, I will be careful. And he realizes that my priority is the family. But it's difficult to pull the wool over his eyes. You cannot, as a family member, you cannot come into my house and come with a lollipop and a sweet like in the old days and make 10,000 promises to my children and then expect my children to just be happy and accepting and, oh, this one is promising he's going to do this for me and that for me, and you never keep that promises. That cuck only works when the children is young. That cuck don't work when the children is older. And that's what a lot of these family members don't realize. Is that you might have had them when they were 6 and 7 and 8. But you've lost them along the way. And the only way you're going to try and get them back is through honesty, integrity, and loving them properly. Because they get proper love at home. They get very, very sincere love at home. And they're not going to trade that for whatever the hell you are offering. Because they've gone through the 1,000 promises and the 1,001 disappointments. And they are no longer falling for the trick. And it's sad. Because the very thing that I was trying to shield them from, they've discovered themselves. Family is a very, very complicated dynamic. And people don't realize that they are losing the most important people in their lives because they cannot be honest and sincere with them.